Hello everybody, I'm the Barebow Brummie, and today we're going to talk about part 3 in setting up your recurve bow brace height. I've got my glasses on today, trying to make myself look a bit more intelligent. I'm not sure it's working, but anyway, brace height. We'll talk about what it is, how it affects your bow, how it affects the way your arrows fly, and more importantly, how to adjust it. Brace height is a very personal thing to each individual archer. My brace height will be different to your brace height, but we'll try and work a way that we can get a brace height for you that works. Now, like many things in archery, brace height is a very simple thing to actually adjust. If I just did a video on adjusting your brace height, it would take literally 2 minutes. But to explain why you're adjusting your brace height and what effect that brace height has on you as an archer is a little bit more complicated, and unfortunately involves a little bit of science. So you have been warned that there's going to be a sciencey bit, which is why I've got my glasses on to make myself look smart. But anyway, let's get on with it. Now, to put it simply, your brace height is the point during the course of taking a shot where your arrow releases itself from the string, like this. It's a distance measured between the riser and the string itself. You measure it in 2 specific places, or one of 2 specific places should I say. If you use a plunger button, then you measure the brace height between the string and the center of your plunger button. Or if you're using a bow which doesn't have a plunger button, you can measure the distance from the string to the deepest recess of your grip, just there. That's called the pivot point, by the way. And those 2 distances will be identical. And it's very simply a case of using your bow square, set that into the deepest recess, and then measure it from there, like that. If you measured from the pressure button to the string, you'd get exactly the same measurement, so it doesn't really matter which one you use. Now, to find out where your brace height measurement should be, conveniently your manufacturers give you a brace height range. It's not an accurate number, it's only a range. The reasons we'll get into in a moment. Some limb manufacturers will give you a posh booklet like I've got from my Win and Win ones, or some of them you don't get anything at all and you have to look these things up online. Go to your manufacturer's website. Generally speaking, they'll have the recommended brace heights for your particular limbs. That's the way to find out what it should be. In the case of the Win and Win one, as I just said, it gives you a posh book to go with it. And if you see the highlighted bit there, that's my particular brace height recommendations. What I've got is a 25-inch riser, and I shoot short limbs, so that there will be my recommended brace height. And it stays between 20.5 centimeters and 23 centimeters. Now, in archery, as you well know, it's a sport based on accuracy and precision. And the manufacturer's giving you a brace height that's 25 millimeters difference between the minimum and the maximum recommendation is a little bit vague, isn't it? You need to be far more accurate than that in your brace height. Don't just set it anywhere between those 2 points and it'll be fine. It won't be fine. What you need to find is your sweet spot, which will be between those 2 distances. Now, the reason that this number is so vague is because the manufacturer of your limbs does not know your draw length, also does not know what type of arrows you're shooting, because a different draw length and a different weight of arrow needs a different brace height, because different types of arrows perform differently. That's just a fact. Now, the sciencey bit. In the process of shooting an arrow out of your bow, what happens is your arrow starts from a stationary position at full draw from there and starts to accelerate forward when you release it at a specific rate until the point where it releases itself from the string at that point there. That rate of acceleration is based on the power of your limbs and the weight or the mass of your arrow. That's based on either Einstein or Sir Isaac Newton's principles of acceleration. Given all things are the same, the acceleration will be identical, i.e. if you have the same draw length and the same weight or mass of arrow, the acceleration rate will be exactly the same. The difference being, and I've set up a mock arrow here to just explain it a bit clearer. Let's assume, in my case, I put a little extra piece on the arrow there so you can see how it works. Is my draw length is set, oh, that's fell off, hang on a minute. That's set right there. Okay, so this arrow will accelerate up to 175 feet per second, that's a 120 miles an hour in English, to the point where that little cross is. But, and that's the arrow's maximum velocity. But if somebody else has a different draw length, let's say their draw length is there, you can see straight away that the arrow reaches its maximum velocity before it detaches itself from the bow. So if you don't adjust the brace height, what will happen is that arrow will start to slow down before it releases itself from the bow. Therefore you lose efficiency out of it and you lose speed and penetration. So you need to adjust the brace height out to match the point where you've reached your maximum acceleration. Now, the complicated thing is, that's fine if you were shooting exactly the same arrows at exactly the same poundage. We all know that that's not the case. Not only will your draw length make your brace height larger, but if you're using different type of arrows, that affects it as well. For example, if you shoot carbon arrows, they are the lightest and accelerate at the fastest rate. Aluminium arrows accelerate slightly slower, and wooden arrows are slower still. Therefore, your brace height has to come back down to compensate for the fact that each of those arrows accelerate at a different rate. It's a bit confusing, isn't it? But we can work the sweet spot out between the manufacturer's recommended brace height settings in a very simple way, and I'll show you how. Now, everything I've just said is exactly why your limb manufacturer can't give you an accurate brace height number. They can only give you a really vague one because of all the variances that we've just been through. Now, the beauty is, to actually adjust your brace height is really very simple. It's all about either adding twists or taking twists out of the string to make the string longer or shorter. If you make the string shorter, it makes the brace height larger. Because it shortens it down, the limbs move in a little bit, the string moves out that way, and therefore makes the brace height bigger. If you need to make the brace height lower, you take twists out of the string, making the string longer, bring the brace height down. Now, I would recommend when you start, either set your brace height at the manufacturer's minimum or maximum recommended height. It doesn't really matter which one you start with. Personally, I always start with the minimum brace height setting because that's just me. I start from there and I work out. The beauty is if you start from one end or the other, you only have to twist the string in one direction to eventually find what your sweet spot will be. Does that make sense? Good. Now, okay, now your first step is to string up your bow, measure the distance you have across your brace height settings where in the positions we explained earlier. So it gives you an idea of where you're going to start, whether you need to make the string longer or shorter to get to the minimum or the maximum brace height settings. That once you know this, de-string your bow, and I'll go to the other bow because it's already de-strung, saves me wasting time. Once you de-string your bow, your top limb, the string will be slid down the limb like it's supposed to be. At the other end, at this end, take the string off and either add or take away twists from the string simply by twisting it around like that. Now I've automatically put 3 twists into the string there. I've now made the string shorter and therefore the brace height will be bigger. Restring your bow, measure it again, adjust it if necessarily again, and until you eventually reach your minimum or maximum brace height settings as set out by the manufacturer. That's your start point. From that point on, what I want you to do is start from the minimum or the maximum brace height, shoot 3 or 4 arrows and listen to the sound of your bow. You're listening for, you want the arrow to come off your bow nice and clean and quickly, but the bow to be as quiet as you can get it. Therefore it's at its most efficient. Shoot a few arrows at the minimum brace height setting, de-string your bow, add a couple of twists in, 2, maybe 3 twists in, restring your bow, shoot it again, see if it feels or sounds differently, de-string it, add another couple of twists until you've worked your way all the way to the opposite brace height setting. So you've worked your way all the way through the whole range. Now you can work your way backwards and forwards depending on what you're trying to achieve until you find the point where the arrow comes off the cleanest you can possibly get it, and the bow is as quiet as you can possibly make it. It's a matter of feel and sound, very much so, and it's a slightly personal thing to you. It will sound slightly different to you than it possibly will to somebody else. So it's a kind of thing you have to kind of experiment with a little bit, move it backwards and forwards. Sometimes there's only 1 or 2 twists in it and you suddenly find that sweet spot that you're actually looking for. So there you go, that's brace height. It's, as I say, incredibly difficult thing to explain from my perspective, but a reasonably difficult, easy thing for you to do to actually adjust it. Anyway, I've been the Barebow Brummie. If this video has been useful to you, please click the like button down there. If there's some more videos like this you'd like to see, please subscribe to the channel. The button is down there somewhere. If you want to watch the 2 other videos I've got on recurve bow setup, I should click the links up here and down there somewhere, about there somewhere. And I've been the Barebow Brummie. Ta-ra for now.